Welcome to One More Hour, the podcast all about backyard ultras, timed races, and the ultra running mindset of going one more. If you're an ultra runner, a trail or ultra runner curious about the format, or just someone who loves to test your limits, you're in the right place. I'm Jackie Wilson, an ultra marathon and marathon run coach, trail runner, outdoor enthusiast, and backyard ultra expert. On this show, I'll bring you stories, strategies, and conversations with runners, race directors, experts, and more to help you go further, dig deeper, and keep going when everything in you says stop. Thank you so much for joining me for some yards. Let's get started with one more. Welcome back to the One More Hour podcast. As spring races start getting closer and we're starting to really plan for fall races as well, I wanted to have a conversation that I think is missing from most goal setting conversations, especially when it comes to ultras and events, backyard ultras, and similar formatted races. Now, we had a discussion at the beginning of 2026, the end of 2025. There was an episode all about goal setting along with a worksheet that went along with that. This is going to be a little similar, but the shift is a little bit different. Most runners right now are asking, what should my goals be for my race? How far can I go? Am I training properly? How should I shift my focus? Because I haven't been getting all my training in. What should be my focus for the fall? And I think there's a more important question underneath all of this. And it is, am I actually ready? Not just physically, but mentally and logistically to take this on. And then the second layer is, am I willing to commit to the process that this format requires? So I also want to preface it by saying the Backyard Ultra, timed events, looped courses are excellent for runners who have never done an ultra, have never done a trail run. I think they're a great introduction that we've talked about that many times before. So I don't want the newer runners, those who are curious about the trail or ultra, to say, oh, this episode isn't for me. It definitely is still for you. And I just wanted to make that comment right off the bat. But for those who are also looking to go really far, I think you have to look at your life situation, your season of life, consider the time that you have to put into training, and ask yourself, like, is that actually enough to show up how I want to on race day for this big goal? Or do you need to adjust your goals if you're like, no, I definitely still want to do this race? So today I'm going to walk you through two resources that I've created for my athletes. The first one being a preseason checklist to really help you decide if this is the right time to train for a backyard ultra or the backyard ultra that you're eyeing right now, or maybe you should be looking at a different one that's in a different month or in a different season. And the second one is a process buy-in reflection to help you understand what training for this actually demands. And I think with ultras, there's this idea of, I really want to do this one hard thing, but we also have to break training down and look at it. And what does training actually entail? How much time do I need to have to commit to it? And sometimes there's a big disconnect between the goal that runners want and the time that they actually have. And in order to show up to race day healthy and to finish the race hopefully healthy, we have to try to figure out what we can adjust and what we can do so that we can make those things happen. Or maybe it's just not the right season right now, which is okay. I don't want to talk you into anything, and I also don't want to just really talk you out of thing or say that you can't do something. It's about helping you make like a clear, grounded decision and to give you an idea of, okay, you are signed up for, let's say, a May Backyard Ultra. Think through all of these different sections that we're going to go through as you are thinking about your goals. And I think it's going to give you a really good idea now that you've been in training for a while to figure out, okay, how does my training need to shift if it does need to, or how do I need to start really working on the mental side of it to show up on race day and perform how I want to perform from the mental side of things. So let's first talk about your why and your intention. Before mileage, before really training plans, before race selection, and this goes back to the first podcast episode that we talked about goal setting in December 2025. You have to answer why this format, why the backyard versus a fixed distance or a point-to-point race or a fixed time event, why the backyard ultra specifically, because this format is very honest, right? It strips down and it strips away external validation. It removes finish lines. It forces you in repetition and into uncertainty. So the question I want you to sit with is, can I clearly articulate why I'm drawn to this beyond the fact that it sounds hard? And then, am I more interested in the experience and the process, or am I more interested in proving something? Because those are two very different starting points, right? One creates curiosity, the other creates pressure. And pressure does not last very long in this format. If you show up on race day for Backyard Ultra and you're trying to prove something, a lot of things can and will go wrong, versus approaching race day with curiosity in whatever you are trying to get curious about. All right, so the next part is talking about like defining success. And I think this is important to do once you've started training. Like, yes, you can do it before you started training, but also something you should do throughout training to figure out how you're going to define success in training and on race day. And this is something that you should do before race day to get more out of your race day experience. And this is where things can get uncomfortable for a lot of runners, but it's really asking, like, what does success look like for you? Because you don't get a finish line here, right? You're not guaranteed a distance with a large chunk of time. It does get aggressive over time. It gets harder. The backyard is easy until it's not, right? You don't get a medal for hitting a specific distance. So if your only definition of success is I want to hit 24 hours or I want to beat my last result, you're setting yourself up for a very fragile experience, because you have one goal that's dependent on the outcome. And this is where a lot of runners struggle, because we do like performance. We do like numbers. We do want to run a PR and achieve a certain distance or time, but you can't solely depend on an outcome-based goal. So instead, I want you to ask yourself, have I defined success beyond a single number? Do you have fueling goals? Do you have pacing goals? Do you have decision-making goals? Do you understand that an X hour goal is a checkpoint, not a ceiling? We've talked about it in a prior episode where you should not set a distance goal or an hour goal or a yard goal in the backyard ultra, because your brain immediately sees that as the ceiling, as the end result. And maybe most importantly, ask yourself, can I walk away from this race feeling successful if I execute well, even if it ends earlier than I hoped? I ask my athletes this, to think about this before every race. If shit hits the fan, if everything goes how you did not want it to go, and your time goal is out the window, I need you to have at least one goal they can be proud of no matter what. And that gets uncomfortable thinking about, right? That's hard for a lot of runners to think about, but it's extremely important to have that one goal that you can be proud of no matter what, because that's what keeps you steady when things don't go perfectly, and they're not going to, right? So I want to talk about process goals and outcomes goals more, because I don't know, runners intentionally set themselves up to struggle, right? When we talk about defining success beyond a number, what we're really talking about are those process goals. And in a backyard ultra, you don't fully control the outcome, right? You don't control how your body responds hour to hour, what happens with the weather, when fatigue actually is going to hit, how the race unfolds around you, what other runners are doing, who's showing up, but you do control how you show up inside of it, right? And that's where process goals come into play. They're not about what you achieve, they're about how you execute. And the process goals can help you get to your outcome goal. So let's talk about like why process goals really matter. If your only goal is, let's use our example of, I want to make it 24 hours, then everything becomes fragile, right? If you have one bad stretch, you start questioning everything. If you are one lap off, you feel like you're falling behind. If your goals are built around execution, you always have something to come back to, right? You always have a way to stay engaged with the race, even when things aren't going perfectly. So examples of process goals would be, instead of asking, how far do I want to go? I want you to ask, how do I want to operate inside the race? How do I want to feel? Fueling goals are, I want to fuel every lap, even if I don't feel like it. I need to maintain 60 grams of carbs per hour, even if I don't feel like it. I want to stay ahead of my hunger instead of reacting to it. I need to stay ahead of my thirst instead of reacting to it. I should not feel thirsty out there. If I do, that's a problem. I want to hit my 500 milliliters per hour and my 700 milligrams of sodium per liter. Whatever your sodium and fluid needs are. Like, use your numbers, use your data, and create process goals out of them. I will treat fueling as part of the race, not something that is optional. Remember that a lot of races don't end because of lack of fitness or lack of discipline. They end from poor fueling decisions and foot problems. Remember episode 18 with Tanya, episode 6 with Natasha, aka Thor. They talk about foot problems, how to care for your feet, how to prevent foot problems like maceration, also blisters and black toenails. Those two are preventable. You do not have to try to use black toenails, losing toenails, blisters as a bragging right. They are not. All of it is preventable. So go listen to those 2 episodes, but that's something that you can incorporate into your training to help you on race day. But foot problems and fueling or GI distress are the 2 top things that take people out of ultramarathons. Pacing goals. Okay, so talking about process goals for pacing, not pacing in terms of speed, but behavior. I want to start slower than I think I need to. I will let people go early without reacting. I'm going to walk the first hills in the first hour. I am walking every hill. I will keep my effort level steady, not chase splits. These protect you from the biggest early mistake, right? Which is going out too hard because it feels easy, because it is easy. I was listening to a podcast this past weekend and she was talking about if you're going to walk the hill in mile 70, to be walking that hill also in mile 2. And I thought that was a really valuable piece of information with keep it easy in the first half. And it's coming up in a later episode, but I talk about RPE, where if you feel like you're at an RPE of 3, you're actually probably at a 4. So slow it down and make it a little bit easier. Decision-making goals. This is a big one, right? I will not make major decisions during emotional lows. I will not let emotion impact my decisions. I will finish the lap, fuel, and reassess before deciding anything. It's a little bit trickier for a backyard ultra, but for ultras in general, the rule is you eat, you hydrate, you sleep before you make a decision. Because when you wake up from that nap after already have fueled some, you have more energy, you're probably not going to decide to DNF like you were thinking before you actually ate and slept. So use that in your ultras going forward. Backyard ultra is a little bit trickier, right? Because you have limited time before the top of the next hour. But if you can lay down, close your eyes for a minute or 2, like that in itself is beneficial. So do not make any decisions in a backyard ultra at camp, in the chair, and before you have eaten something, hydrated, and taken a little bit of a nap, or at least lay down and shut your eyes. Another one is I will respond to problems, not panic about them. Get out of your heart and use logic. This is what keeps one bad moment from ending your entire race, right? It's really easy to panic and say, my race is over, everything is going wrong, but you have to learn to ride those waves. You have to ride those lows to get to the good parts again. And then, yes, there will be more lows, but ultramarathons are roller coasters, and you have to stay on the ride the entire time. Okay, mindset process goals. Examples would be, I will stay curious when things feel off. I will expect discomfort instead of resisting it. Like, I think that one right there is huge. You need to expect that it's going to be hard. You need to expect that you're going to be in a little bit of pain and discomfort, or a lot of it, depending on who you are, what you've experienced before, what your pain tolerance is, how far you've ran, how far you are wanting to go. But it's not all going to be sunshine. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. It's going to get hard. It's going to be difficult. You're going to want to quit. You're going to have doubt, but you need to keep going. So set some of these mindset process goals to help you work towards the outcome. Another one would be, I will focus on the next loop, not the total time. Or maybe I will focus on this loop and not the total time if you're back out on the course and not back at camp. Mindset isn't something that you hope shows up. It's something that you have to practice and be intentional about. All right, execution process goals would be like even the simple ones. I will sit down and reset between loops. I will check in with my body every hour. I recommend doing that before you come back to camp so that you kind of have an idea of what you want to grab, what you need to do when you're back at camp. I will stick to my routine even when I don't feel like it. I think that's huge. Being disciplined about routine, being disciplined about fueling, being disciplined about your sock changes. I think that's one of the biggest things that I see is runners have a plan going into a race saying, I'm going to change my socks every 25 miles or every other aid station, or for the backyard, maybe every 4-6 hours. But then you get to that first time that you're supposed to change your socks and you're like, oh, my feet are fine. I don't need to change my socks yet. Bites you in the butt later on because you need to be proactive about foot care. I don't care if your feet are doing I think it's awesome that your feet are just doing okay. But you should know when your salty britches or whatever product you're using on your feet to prevent maceration needs to be reapplied. Like, it doesn't last for 24, 48, 72 hours. It has a shorter life than that. 4, 6, 8 hours, depending on who you are, how much you sweat, what the weather conditions are like, what the course is like, what the weather is like. But you have to practice that in order to know so that you can do that on race day. And don't just say like, oh, I feel like, it's just like fueling, right? It's one of the biggest mistakes that new backyard ultra runners make is, I feel great. Why would I fuel in hour 1? Because you're actually fueling for hour 24, 36 or whatever. So stick to your routine even when you don't feel like it. They sound small, but they create stability over time. So when you ask yourself, can I walk away from this race feeling successful if I execute well? You're really asking, did I fuel consistently? Did I stay patient? Did I make good decisions? Did I stick to my plan? Did I keep showing up the way that I said I would? Because if that answer is yes, then the race went exactly how it was supposed to. You showed up in the way that you are capable of, and that's what you're building towards. It's a lot harder to be mad about, I didn't hit 24 hours, when you did everything that you could with nutrition. You did everything that you could with pacing. You did everything that you could with your mindset, and just so happened that you had a lot of GI problems that day, or your knee got significantly inflamed and you called it quits because you have the approach of longevity and wanting to continue to run, and you don't want it to get so far that it's unfixable or at the point where you need surgery or you have to be out from running for 6 months, 12 months, whatever. It's really hard to be mad about that. Like, yes, you can be disappointed that you didn't hit 24 hours, but you also need to be really proud that you stuck to your process goals, that you followed the plan, that you adapted during the race to meet your needs in the moment. In a format with no finish line, outcome goals will always leave you wanting more, period. If you hit 24 hours and let's say you go one more and you finish 25 and then you decide to be out to the race, you're going to say, oh, I could have gone more. I should have gone more. I just got in my head or whatever. Like, your brain will start making up excuses, but you will always want more if your only goal is outcome based. But process goals, they give you something to hold on to every single hour. They give you something to focus on. If you are at hour 18 and your outcome goal is hour 24, that's a big gap right there. especially if you're newer to the backyard and you're newer to ultras, you've never ran that far, that's a significant chunk of time. And you can start to think like, oh my gosh, how am I going to make it to hour 24? I'm only on 18 right now, only, right? But if you have process goals to focus on, and these are the things that I said I was going to do, I'm going to continue to do those. And you also have, I don't know, carrot dangling in front of you that like, okay, one more yard and I can have this snack that I've been looking forward to, or one more yard and pizza is going to be delivered to the aid station, or 2 more yards and we're at, or maybe it's 4 more yards and we're at sunrise. Whatever it may be, like use those tools to your advantage, but always have process goals for your race. But you need to start planning for those so that you can also still practice them during training. It's also going to give you an idea of what you've thought about and what you have not, and that also will help you going forward. So now let's zoom out a little bit, because backyard ultras do not happen in a vacuum, right? And this is where a lot of runners, I don't want to say get it wrong, but get it wrong. They ask, can I physically train for this? Yes. Like the majority of runners can say, yes, can I physically train for this? But the better question is, does my life support this right now, right? Because that's a much different question. I want you to ask and to check in with yourself. What is your stress load like? What is your sleep like? How much sleep are you getting? What is work like right now? What are your family responsibilities? What are your kids' activities like right now? What is your travel schedule if you travel? Maybe you're also thinking about vacations. Like, when do you have vacations planned for? And ask yourself, am I trying to take this on from a place of capacity or from a place of escape? Because if you're already stretched thin, this does not create relief, right? It magnifies everything. It makes everything more stressful. And ultra runners, or I would say runners in general, tend to, I want to train for a marathon or I want to train for an ultra when they're going through bigger life changes or when something more stressful is happening, right? Because running has been a source of stress relief, and it has helped your physical health, your mental health. It gives you maybe social time if you're running with friends, but it also is a stressor on itself. And you only have one stress bucket, right? Everyone's stress bucket can be a different size, but you only get one bucket. Life stress, job stress, family stress, training stress, it all goes in the same bucket. So think about that. All right, next thing that I want to talk about is the actual training itself, right? Not the exciting version. The real version. It's not about peak fitness. It's about durability. I want you to ask yourself, have I been running consistently? Not perfectly, but consistently for several months? Am I comfortable spending long periods of time at an easy effort? Am I willing to progress gradually instead of rushing fitness? This format does not reward urgency. It rewards restraint. Now, yes, you can go from couch to backyard, but you have to be realistic with your goals. It also depends on the time frame, right? Like if you're looking at a end of May backyard and it's the end of March right now, and you have 2-ish months, less than 2-ish months, you just have to be realistic with what you're going to do on race day. I would not advise pushing for 4 hours. Like you have to let everything adapt to running, right? You also have to consider like if you have been consistent with running versus not consistent with running. If you've been consistent with running, it's a lot easier to ramp up mileage and train for something. If you have not been consistent with running, you have to build that consistency first, right? So just like any ultra, you need that time. You need that time to train. You need that time to be consistent, and you can't rush it. But you also have to remember that training for a backyard ultra is not just physical. It's how you think, it's how you make decisions, and how you handle everything when it stops feeling smooth. So do you have the mental capacity for training? Another question to ask yourself in terms of the mindset side and decision-making side is, do I expect bad laps, low points, and uncertainty? Because they are coming. You have to expect them. If you're surprised by them, you're going to react to them, and you're going to react to them in a way that is not beneficial to your race. But if you expect them, you can respond to them, right? And you can have planned for them. One thing I ask my athletes to do is think about all the things that could go wrong on race day so that we can come up with a solution ahead of time or multiple solutions. It's one of my favorite things to do. Like, take a piece of paper out, write all the things that could go wrong on the left side. It's like a T-chart. And then on the right side, write down all the solutions. But at least here, you have started planning like what you could actually do so that when some of these things happen on race day, your brain already knows what to do. Or it can piece together some of your solutions for different situations. And then ask, do I have strategies to slow down panic spirals? Because one hard lap does not end your race, right? But the story you tell yourself about that one lap might. Listen to the episode. It's really short. It's probably like 10 minutes. The lies your brain tells you at 2 a.m., right? You can't let those night hours end your race just because your brain is really loud at that moment because it's trying to protect you. You cannot tell yourself those stories. You need to be aware that your brain's going to try to do that and have a solution, have ways to tell your brain to shut up. And this is another big question. Do I understand that fatigue affects decision making? The version of you at hour 2 or hour 5 is not the version of you at hour 20 in the middle of the night, right? If you don't account for that, you're going to start making emotional decisions and calling them logical ones. Even though you know in your head, this is not logical thinking right now, it feels like the truth. So you need to account for those things. You need to practice those things and plan for them. If you're going to have a crew, this is where a crew really comes into play because they can be the logical ones. And you just need to know that you need to listen to them, to what they're saying. But practice this. Am I willing to delay big decisions when emotions are high? Are you willing to delay the decision to DNF until sunrise comes up? If not, I'm done, I'm quitting, this isn't working, right? You don't want to get to that point. I want you to say, like, let me finish this lap, let me eat, let me reset, then I'll decide. Let me go out for another yard, and then let me decide. That skill alone can change the outcome of your race. You can go so much further if you take that approach. We talk about like the mistakes that newer backyard runners make is quitting when their yards start slowing down, right? Like they've come in consistently with 10 minutes left on the clock, 12 minutes left on the clock. And as soon as they hit a slower lap, maybe they come in with 8 minutes, they're like, oh, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. But you have so much time left on the clock. You can go for days with that amount of time on the clock. So do not make decisions based on emotion. Delay those decisions. Rely on other runners and your crew to help you verbalize those things, the things that you're thinking. Next is support and guidance. And I don't think runners think enough about this. We like to believe we can figure it out on our own, right? Like I'm very guilty about that. But this format is long, it's repetitive, and it's mentally demanding. So ask yourself, do I know where I get feedback and perspective during training? Like, how are you going to get feedback? Who are you going to ask questions to? Who are you going to talk to? That could be a coach. It could be a training partner. It could be a community. It could be a run club, a run group. It needs to be something. And then, am I open to asking for help when I need it? Not after things go wrong, but before. Be proactive about it. Getting outside perspective can save you from going too hard, too fast, or too far off track. And if coaching is part of your journey, I want you to think about it this way. Coaching is not about fixing you. It's about support. It's about guidance. It's about giving you another perspective. It's about helping you see what you cannot see when you're in it. Hindsight is always 20/20, right? But you can't see it when you're in it. Logistics and the awareness behind it. Not in an overwhelming way, but in a grounded, prepared way. Ask yourself, do I understand the basic flow of a backyard ultra? How the loops work, how the timing works, what is expected between laps, right? A lot of backyard ultra runners, when they're new to it, start out way too fast. They're running their yards way too fast. And they're like, oh, the person that won it is at the back. There's this big group of runners that's coming in with 10 minutes left and I came in with 20 minutes left. Like, what's up with that? Like, read the cues, talk to people, figure those things out. Because the more familiar that it feels, the less mental energy you waste on race day. That's the whole thing about training and creating routines and focusing on the process and practicing all of these things. Then think about, like, have I thought about fueling, gear, and crew at a high level? Doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be dialed into the smallest detail, but just enough that you're not guessing under fatigue. It can be very easy to underfuel and underhydrate if you don't have a plan at all, if you have not thought about nutrition at all. Yes, going out for a 3-hour, 4-hour, 5-hour long run, it's pretty easy to kind of wing it. Like, you have the fuel that you need and you kind of know the timing that you need, but planning for 24, 48, 60, 72 hours is a different ballgame. And this one is key. Do I understand that logistics matter, but execution matters more, right? So you can have the perfect setup, but if you can't stay calm, if you can't fuel consistently, if you don't know where your stuff is and you can't make good decisions, it does not matter. So yes, like, be prepared, but don't hide behind preparation as a substitute for practicing the actual skills. You have to practice these things. And when you put it all together, training for a backyard ultra becomes something different, right? It's not just, am I fit? It's, can I manage myself physically, mentally, logistically, over and over and over again? Because that's what this format really asks of you. All right, next section. I have an entire episode on this, but I still want to touch on it today. So this is where we're going to shift into the second part, which is the process buy-in, right? Because even if you're ready on paper, the real question is, are you willing to do the kind of training that this requires? So let's say, like, you've decided, like, yes, this fits in with my season of life. I have the training or the time to train for it. I know my why. I know my intentions. Now you need to buy into the process, right? So are you willing to do the kind of training that this format requires? Are you willing to do the unsexy skills of backyard ultras? So one of the skills is long, boring consistency, right? What parts of your training feel boring right now? And when boredom shows up, what do you actually do? Do you skip runs? Do you rush runs? Do you skip strength training? Do you start questioning the plan? Or do you stay steady? You're like, yeah, this is boring, but this is what I need to do. Backyard ultras are built on long, boring consistency. And if you don't have the buy-in there, the rest does not matter. Like, you have to be consistent with your runs. You have to be consistent with your strength training. Yes, I know that you can get away without much strength training, but how long are you going to be able to do that? Like, eventually there's going to be an injury that pops up. And if you want to go really far in the backyard, strength training is going to help you go even further than you think you can go or that you want to go. I promise you that. How do you actually view strength training? Do you view it as optional? Is it something that you rush? Is it something that you avoid? Or is it a non-negotiable? And when it feels inconvenient, what story do you tell yourself about strength training? Because strength training isn't about looking strong, right? It's being able to move well deep into the race, and it's how you increase your capacity, how you increase your load, your ability to go further. When you become fatigued, strength training keeps you strong. Walking is another part. What comes up for you when you think about walking in a race? Like, for a lot of runners, there's resistance, right? It's identity. But in ultras, and especially in backyard ultras, walking is strategy. Walking is how you go further. So ask yourself, am I willing to practice walking intentionally, not just when I'm forced? I see a lot of runners do all of their training without any walking or hiking involved. And then they get to race day when they're like, okay, we got to do this walk-run thing. Like, you're doing different muscles. Like, it's a different change-up going from a walk to a run to a walk. You have to practice it. And you also want to be a fast walker, right? Do you understand how walking can protect your race instead of harm it? Your running pace can slow down, but you can still walk. So if you're running the majority of your loop and you're maybe walking the uphills and you're coming in with 12 minutes left, you have so much time to slow down your run or walk. It's more efficient and still come in with time left to grab more fuel, grab more hydration, sit down. Especially the flatter courses, you can go really far by walking more with a flat course. Listen to episode 21, which is all about walking, and episode 8, which is all about pacing, to really learn more about walking and how to pace a backyard ultra. But you have to practice. You have to practice walking and hiking in your training. Repetition, same loop, same routine, same decisions over and over and over again, right? So how do you respond to repetition? Do you get restless? Do you get irritated? Or can you stay present? This format is repetition, and your relationship with that matters more than your fitness. I've been asking a lot of runners on the podcast, like, do you get bored out there? And I am blown away every time someone says no, because that's something that I struggle with after 18 hours or whatever. Like, I get bored out there. I'm also very introverted, so I think that plays into it, but it's something I'm focused on this year and working on, of not getting bored or working through those moments so that I'm bored, like I'm done. Like, no, my number one goal last October, well, actually it was last August, was not to leave any time on the clock. I ended up winning that backyard ultra, so I didn't get to that point of not being able to leave any time left on the clock. But in October, I did not leave any time left on the clock. My last 2 yards, I came in with like 10 seconds and 30 seconds, or both times were very, very close to the top of the hour. And I just turned around and went right back out. Like, think about those things. How do you do with boredom? How do you do with repetition? What do you need to work on to help you go further in the backyard ultra format? So process-based success, this is where we're going to bring it all together, right? So instead of asking, like we mentioned at the beginning, what do I want? Like, what outcome do I want? I want you to ask, what does a successful training week look like for me? And even if nothing exciting happens, what will make this training block successful? A long, boring, consistent training block to me is like chef's kiss. Like, it is, I love when all of the pieces align and when athletes can get their training in and it goes really, really well. Now, I will say you are not guaranteed an amazing race day and an amazing result just because your training went really well. Like, race day, the race does not owe you that. Anything can happen on race day. But you also do not need a perfect training plan to have a great race day and a result, right? On the other side of that, life happens. And if you can adapt and you can be flexible with your training and you can get in what you need to get in, that's also great. Like, you do not have to have a perfect training cycle. But if nothing exciting happens and your training block is long, boring, and consistent, like, how do you define success with that? Because if your only definition of success is progress you can see, you're going to feel like you're failing most of the time. And you're definitely not. Like, put that into perspective. You're doing something very hard. Not many people do this. Runners, ultra runners, are abnormal. We are not normal. But in our own bubble, like, that's what we see. So we think that it is normal. And we forget about how much we do and like how much we're capable of and how extraordinary the things are that we are doing. So no, you are not failing most of the time. And here's the question that I want to finish this episode with. And it's on commitment. It's not, am I ready? It's, am I willing to commit to the process, even when it's boring, repetitive, and unglamorous? Because that's what this question comes down to. It's not motivation, it's not hype, it's commitment. And if this feels like a lot, simplify it. Choose one thing. Maybe it's showing up when motivation is low. Maybe it's not rushing your strength training. Maybe it's lifting 2 times a week. Maybe it's practicing your fueling on every long run and fueling some of your shorter runs. Maybe it's practicing walking. Maybe it's letting go of needing every run to feel good, right? So choose one thing, one small promise, because consistency is not built all at once. You should not try to do all of these things all at once. It's just built through small decisions that you keep and you do them consistently, day after day after day. So I've put all of these into 2 resources for you. There's the Backyard Ultra Preseason checklist to help to decide if this is the right time. And then there's a process buy-in reflection worksheet to really help you stay grounded once you've started training, so you can start to figure out what your process goals are while working to and thinking of race day. So you can find both of those in the show notes. Take your time with them. Don't rush through them. Think through these things. Process goals can be extremely valuable, and they can keep you going really, really far on race day. Clarity now is going to save you a lot of frustration later on. And if you go through this and you realize, hey, I really want help turning my answers into a training plan, turning it into a race strategy, or just having someone guide you through the process, that's what I do. That's what I help my athletes do. But either way, think about these things leading up to your race. Have process goals going into your race. The sooner you can think about them, the better off, because you can start practicing these things. They tend to indicate what you actually need to do in training. But you really just need to be honest about what you want, right? And then you have to be honest about what you're willing to commit to. So until next time, remember to go 1 more hour or even 1 more step. Thanks for tuning in to 1 More Hour. If you enjoyed this episode, hit follow so you don't miss the next yard. And share it with a runner who loves pushing their limits. I'd love to hear your own stories of going 1 more. Connect with me on Instagram at the 1 More Hour podcast. And if you could leave a quick review, it'll help more runners find the show and keep going when they want to stop. Until next time, just go 1 more hour.